Hello, my kohais. Hope you're all doing well. I'm your host, Senpai, and welcome to another Prehistoric Kingdom speed build, where today we are building the Leaellynasaura enclosure. Yes, we are finally building an enclosure for one of the other newer dinosaurs in the game, at least for now. So we're starting off with the usual, building the path and then building the pen in it. You know, I do this all the time. I don't know why I started there. Oh god. But anyway, I've done this plenty of times before, so you should know the formula at this point. Build the path around where I want to build the enclosure. And I decided to put it along here, because, yeah, we have that massive Eurasian cave lion enclosure, but nothing really else. So I figured, you know what, might as well put the Leaellynasaura enclosure there, fill in some of that space. This enclosure initially was actually a bit too big for the Leaellynasaura, so I decided to shrink it down because what I need wasn't going to be particularly extravagant. And also, I think this is the quickest speed build in the whole series thus far. In fact, I think this is our quickest speed build ever. Either I'm getting really good at building these enclosures and it's just becoming second nature, like breathing, or this just wasn't a very difficult build and I just knew what I wanted from the start. So once again, we're going through the selection process of choosing the males, and then, we're going to do the same thing for the females. I ultimately do not keep the melanistic Leaellynasaura because we already have a few mutated skins around. So I figured these are supposed to be rare, so let's keep it that way, at least until we get something really cool. Like, say, a Spinosaurus or something like that. Anyway, so I've lifted up the terrain, and this is where we're going to put our waterfall. Once again, I did take some inspiration from Walking With Dinosaurs. There's one shot in particular of a Leaellynasaura, like, standing by a waterfall. And so I decided, let's make a coastal waterfall sort of enclosure. Make it look like nice and spiffy. Once again, putting down some rock textures, smoothing out the terrain where I want it to. Just building up the general shape of how I want the interior of the enclosure to look. But I basically kind of knew what I wanted from the start, and I really didn't deviate much from it. Placed down a food trough, making a path for them so they could get through it. Also, I gotta say, the substrate texture works really nicely to fill in the cracks in the rocks. Absolutely love that tool. Once again, smoothing out all those rough edges, because no one wants to see that unless you're putting rocks over it. Just modifying it as I go, because, these placeable feedy areas really do like to mess up where the terrain is placed and such. Yeah, makes sense of what I just said there. Oh god, I had a stroke. And now we're building up the rocky cliff here. To give more life to this enclosure. I know it's an odd thing to say, but that's basically what I'm doing. Just making it look more lively than it actually is. And of course, we do the same process we always do. Copy and pasted. Make our lives just that little bit easier, I guess you could say. I try to get the water as close to the edge as possible, but I just really wish that the brush for the water was just one grade smaller so I could just fit it where I really wanted to. Once again, I'm just filling up some space with the rocks, mostly to cover up the areas where there is no water. Building up the wall. I'm really struggling with commentary here. I should mention that I do have this save in the Steam Workshop. So if you guys, got my phone. If you guys want to preview this, the save is in the Steam Workshop. Also, the other reason I have it in the Steam Workshop is also because I'm hoping that if something happens to this save when it updates, I can go into the Steam Workshop and get it back. Hopefully. That's the hope. Because inevitably with new systems coming into the game and things like that, I can, just get my park back, because I really don't want to do all this stuff again. As fun as these videos are, I really don't want all my work to be all for nothing, basically. I'm pretty sure you guys know what I'm talking about. So yeah, I'm just now building up the wall by putting up some trees and plants, making it feel more alive. Not so nasty. I really like how that turned out. I also put some moss on the rock, because this is kind of like a wet environment. And I do remember the falls from Walking with Dinosaurs, Spirit of the Ice Force. That rocky cliff had some moss, if I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure that's what they look like. It's been a while since I watched Walking with Dinosaurs. Holy damn. I need to get on top of that, actually, since I did the review of Walking with Dinosaurs. I'll put the card up here in case you haven't seen it. But anyway, I'm now making the second layer, which is also going to be a waterfall. I just really wanted to make this waterfall central. Basically. Once again, building up that rock wall. And I really didn't like this gap here, where there was just rock, terrain, and then water. So I decided to cover that up with rock as well. And I really like how that turned out. It looks more part of like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like it's actually part of the environment and not some artificial stuff. I don't know. Once again, putting down some waterfalls with some splash effects, just to make it all that much more beautiful. And continuing to build up that rock wall. I really, really like how this turned out. Really do. I did have to go back to make some minor changes, because the Leaellynasaura do sometimes get stuck on these rocks. So I either had to shrink them or push them further down into the ground. Really not much else to say about that. Then it was time to build up the rest of this sort of cliff area. And also, for some reason, the Leaellynasaura really like to swim. I don't know if it's because of how this enclosure is built, or if it's because these guys, one of their environmental needs is water. Like, they're wetland creatures. Like, one of the biomes they can have. Even though they don't need water in their enclosure, but they can have a lot of it. So I'm assuming it's because they like to swim. Which is weird for something this heavily feathered and small. Now I'm building up the last little waterfall that's going to be at the back, because I don't really do much when it comes to the back sides of the enclosures. So I wanted to actually make it look pretty. So here I am building up the rock wall again, smoothing out the terrain where it's a bit rough and jagged. And, I'm also trying to place less and less rocks by stretching them and all that stuff. And the good thing is that the texture changes when you stretch the rock, so it's not the same every time, and it looks different. Which is an A+ in my book. I really wish we had stuff like this in PINES too. Really do. But no, it's all the same. Anyway, I continue building up that rock wall and putting some more rocks in where I think it's needed, like to fill in the gaps and such. And this area here is where I'm going to build their den in a little bit. Just going to complete this little waterfall structure here. Add some rocky texture, make it look a bit more natural. I really wish there was a moss. Like, I know this is a weird request, but I really wish there was a moss paint option for the terrain. There's a lot of terrain options I would have liked to see, and moss would be one of them, especially for something like wetlands and coastal, basically things that like prone to being humid and wet and things like that. It would make sense, right? I'm not the only one who thinks this. I can't be, right? Please let me know in the comments. If it, we'll make a new hashtag. Hashtag add moss texture in Paleopines? Oh, God. Wrong game. In Prehistoric Kingdom. And here I am adding some more rocky textures because I wanted to also blend that scene with the scene where the Leaellynasaura are eating with the Muttaburrasaurus. And they were on like a rocky sort of beach in a way. And now we are going to be building up their den. I would love to have made the sort of area in Walking With Dinosaurs where it was just a nesting colony and they all had like individual little nesting mounds that they stayed with. But that doesn't really count as a shelter. That just counts as like a home. So they actually needed a proper cave. And of course, I was going to provide said accommodations. I still need some work when it comes to making caves, especially on my own, instead of just using the prefabs. But for what this is, I think it's serviceable. I do have to constantly go through and cover up all the flatter, more jagged areas that kind of stick out like a sore thumb, in my opinion, because, oh god, I don't like it when the rock just... when it just looks flat. And then there's another layer on underneath it. I don't like that at all. And now I'm just going through and following the Leaellynasaura and marking down their path using the substrate. You know, I'm following the same logic as I've had in previous speed builds where this is the path they've taken, so it would make sense for it to be worn down in these certain areas, because they travel a lot through these areas. You know, to get to food, to get to water, to get to their shelter, or just to walk in general. And because there's like so many, there's 6 males and 9 females. That's 15 animals in a single enclosure. I think that might actually be the most we have in a single enclosure so far. I don't know. I have to go back through to check. But, and it's kind of crazy because if it is, this is a very small enclosure for having that many animals. But Leaellynasaura isn't that fussy, so I guess it's not that big of a deal. I continue building out the path. I do this for a while. I just follow them around and just trace where they walk with substrate. And the areas that don't have the substrate is just going to be forest. Leaellynasaura is one of those dinosaurs that can just have an enclosure that's nothing but forest and they'd be totally happy. So, of course, I was going to make this a fully, like, coastal forest environment sort of thing. You know, just placing down trees and ferns. I also tried to not go for the biggest of trees because, again, I really don't like small animals being put up with, like, mega trees, like, especially the redwood trees with the Leaellynasaura. It's kind of comical. I know this is the environment they would have lived with, but this is my artistic interpretation. So let me live out my dream. So, yeah, I just fill in the blank space with a bunch of trees and ferns and such. Shrink them down where I think it's needed. Honestly, I didn't really do that much shrinkage because it honestly looked pretty good from the start. I think I got some nicely sized trees. Once again, putting down the waterfall. And some more trees and ferns to cover up whatever spaces I missed. You know, make it pop, like feel more like a real forest. And that is basically the Leaellynasaura enclosure finish, other than some minor touch-ups I did off camera. Yeah, I know, I gotta get better at not doing that. But without further ado, let's take a look at the Leaellynasaura Pines enclosure, now open to the public. And here it is, folks, Leaellynasaura Pines, at long last. So, why don't we go ahead and take a good look around. I did make some last minute changes off camera. I really need to make that less of a habit whenever I do these builds. But yeah, this is the new and improved enclosure now that it's finished. And so, why don't I take you on the big old tour, shall we? So, this is like the main viewing area where you would see the Leaellynasaura. You know, and it's a nice view too. You got the waterfall here and the little pond here with all the lily pads and all that stuff and the information boards and such. You go around, you can see them feed here if you want. Go all around here. You have another feeding platform that's a bit more secluded, but you can still see them. And of course, come around here. And we have this lovely cave for them to be sleeping in. In fact, we have one female here, Gigi, sleeping here. All fluffy and cute-like. Indeed. I really love the models for the Leaellynasaura. I think this is the third Leaellynasaura model I've ever seen, because we got the one from Walking With Dinosaurs and Dinosaur King. Oh, wait. Fossil Fighters, they had a Leaellynasaura too. So this is technically the fourth Leaellynasaura, but this is the only one I've ever seen that has feathers, which looks awesome. Long, fluffy tail, big old eyes. Oh, it's adorable. And of course, come around here. We got another waterfall with a pond where one of our males, Bowser, is taking a lovely swim through and through. And that's basically the full loop. But let's actually go into the enclosure proper. So we got a nice waterfall here with a feeding station. You know, in case they wanted to be a little bit more out of sight, so to say. I've also added some horsetails here because, you know, these guys like wetlands, and I don't really use horsetails in these builds, so I figured, you know what, it'd be a nice change of pace. Of course, we go up here. There's more of that waterfall buildup from here. I got a log up there, so, like, to better replicate, like, the look of Walking With Dinosaurs. And, dear God, those Plateosaurus are loud. I've also made a bridge here. I've never seen them use it, but I would like for them to, like, you know, because they swim in this water all the time. I'd like to have an option where, yeah, they could swim, but they could also take the bridge to get across so they don't have to go through all of that. But they still like to swim through here. These guys surprisingly like to swim a lot. I don't know if it's because it's wetland dinosaur or if this is just how the animals navigate through their environment, but that's how it is. And then, of course, the waterfall from up here. Once again, we got a bunch of lily pads. And Gigi's thirsty. So, yeah, be free, Gigi. I guess she's going to go around and get a drink from here. I think. Will she, though? That's the question. Oh, she might do. I might come back through here, like, and change some of the rock sizes so they don't get stuck all the time. But it really depends on, like, following them a lot to see where they get stuck and such. So she's gonna drink from here. From the rock. Not from the water, but from the rock. I mean, you could look down. It's a very steep drop. But yeah, that is Leaellynasaura Pines. So, as promised, the next build will be the Spinosaurus enclosure. And, again, I'm thinking about putting it somewhere around this general area. Maybe utilize this giant pond here in the center, because this could be the perfect place to plunk a Spinosaurus. So, yeah, that is the Leaellynasaura Pines in our Prehistoric Kingdom speed build. I have put this save into the workshop, and I will update it every time we finish a build. So hopefully, if something happens to this save when the game updates again, I can still come back to this. That's always the fear, though. We'll see what happens. But anyway, that's Leaellynasaura Pines. So if you enjoyed it and you're looking forward to when we build the Spinosaurus enclosure, leave a like, subscribe today, hit that notification bell so you know when it's ending new. All my links are in the link tree in the description down below. And until next time, this is Tyrannosaurus signing off. Alright then, take care now. Bye-bye then.